from the professional level all the way down to grassroots, sport is a business. We might try and pretend it's not. We might say that we need to be making it more community-minded, but ultimately it's still a business. It's really interesting decisions made by some big clubs around the world recently, where they appear to be putting business first before on-field success, where they explore whether that's the right move and what the fans think about that decision. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality, find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. So news broke yesterday of the complete shock that Luka Dončić was moving from the Mavs to the LA Lakers. And I'm not a massive NBA fan, but it's just one of those bits of news that just grabs everyone's attention. And I got to be honest, I couldn't get enough of it, looking at all the details and what was going on and why they would do that. This is a franchise player, huge with the fans. He gets results. I mean, you had to watch him play against the Boomers in the Olympics the last couple of times. Just what a superstar he is. And he's only 25. And why would they suddenly trade him? Now, I've been thinking about this for a while because I've heard these different stories, like Tottenham, for example, and the EPL. They have, I think I read, the best percentage in the profit and sustainability percentage in the whole league. Now, how important is profitability versus results? Because you look deeper into the Dončić trade, the Mavs would have been forking out $345 million for what they call them, the Supermax deals or whatever, for the next 5 years. That's significant money. So have they made a business decision? Because I also read that, he's had some fitness issues. He's had a calf problem. But to me, they're all manageable. But the fact that they've got rid of him now, and they've had other people they could have thrown it open to the world and started the bidding war, but instead they just did it quietly, which to be commended, right? In this world that nothing seems to fly under the radar, they did it in quiet and the deal was done, and that's the first we read about it. But was it just a business decision? The fans are in mourning because they love him. But how long can you just operate on a success from just a profit perspective when those people that are forking out their hard-earned to go and watch the games? Is there an element of, there's a mystique around having a team that's never successful, so you keep going because you wouldn't want to not show up the one time that they do win or win something big? You want to be there the whole time. I know as a Para fan, a long-suffering Para fan, it's starting to feel a bit like that. We've got a really sound business operation now and profitable. We won't go into those places again when the business side's struggling. They've set that up well, but how much longer can we tolerate not having success on the field? I know the Tottenham fans, they'll keep turning up and they'll continue to be vocal, but are you doing the right thing by them? Is that how you want to run your club? Be happy with not hitting the most successful level, but just from a business perspective? Wouldn't you want it to be successful from both sides of it? Wouldn't you want to be looking for a way to try and be successful from a profit and sustainability perspective and from on the pitch? Because ultimately you're a sporting team. Now, to me, let's take Tottenham, for example, if they're looking at a slow build and they're building towards something, well, then you can get it. But I think I read, was it 24 managers in the last 16 years or something like that? They're not doing it slow build. They continue just when the manager's having a rebuild, some results fall by the wayside and they flick them again. And a couple of the last few managers have actually called them out on that and going, they'll never win anything. Ange called out the Tottenham fans at the end of last year when they were cheering for the other team to win because they didn't want their neighbours, Arsenal, to win the league. To me, that's part of the culture change. But you've got to build towards something. But if you purely just profit, I can't get on board with that. It makes no sense. And I'd be curious to know if any of you people as fans would rather have that safe guarantee of locking in, we're going to be here forever and we're not going to collapse financially, or would you rather just roll the dice and go, well, we're happy for that to be more of a risk, but we want to see results? I remember when I was at Fox, we used to talk a lot about sport, obviously, at Fox Sports, at sports television. It's all we talked about, mostly anyway. And one of the West Tigers fans saying, when Parrott had a sustained run in around the finals, this is probably 10 years ago now, and they were only 10 years off winning the premiership in 2005. He's like, I'd trade the premiership for making the finals every year, because he's like, we don't make the finals. It's like a one-off. As a fan, I can get that, because you want to feel like you're in the contest. But I also know what it's like to have sustained success being a Parrot fan and not getting the premiership, and that's hard to take. I look at my youngest, who's 18 now, and he's over it. He's over losing. Him and his cousin, they just, like, they've seen that many heartbreaks. So what are we standing for here? Like, at a community level, it's very much about the business of it, and you do need to create a sustainable model, not just financially, but from a people side of things. But this is not community. This is elite sport. There's a community aspect, of course, but what's the responsibility to your fans? Another example, and this is from my team in the English football, Sheffield Wednesday have been in and around the second and third tier for a fair few years now. They rolled the dice, I think it was about 2000, 2001. They'd been sitting around that fourth, fifth, sixth place for a few years, and they rolled the dice and invested in, like, fairly heavily in some quality that they hoped would take them to the next level. They had a couple of long-term injuries to those big signings. They had a couple of flops in amongst those big signings, and they get relegated. And then they're deep in a hole financially. They get pinged 15 points a couple of times, and then they end up dropping a couple of divisions, and then the long fight back. What's interesting at the moment is new manager, young guy. He's connected to the fans. He's got the fans on board. Helps that they're winning. He saved them from, like, almost certain relegation on the last day of the season, after they were, I think it was 3 points after 13 games to start the year. And now he's got them like a win out of the playoffs to go up to the Premier League. And yet the fans still aren't happy. They're still complaining. And at the start of the year, most of them said, if we can hit mid-table this year and not get relegated, then we'll be really happy. And yet here we are, being successful, and they still want results. And they're blaming the owner. And the owner hasn't splashed out in this transfer window, and he hasn't allowed them to buy more players. And they've been inconsistent, as you'd expect, because this is a team that only just scraped in. So I think if you ask most fans, yes, they want to be profitable. No, they don't want to have that 20 years in the wilderness because you've gambled too much on the financial side. So there obviously needs to be some balance there. But I don't think any fan, well, I mean, tell me, would you be satisfied with just having a really profitable business from a professional sporting perspective? Or do you want results? I look at a guy like Adam Drury, who's the CEO at the Bulldogs. I think he's CEO or chairman, I can't remember. Now, I know his family well, and he's passionate. He bleeds blue and white, and he wants them to win. He wants them to be successful because he's a businessman. He's got a huge business of his own, but he wants success. And that's why he's got himself so heavily involved. I've spoken to him. He's like as diehard as they come. He's a footy fan, but he's also a very shrewd businessman who knows what he's doing. To me, that's the model I want. That's the sort of person I want in charge, someone who's absolutely going to look out after the bottom line, but he wants success. And if you've seen the change at that place over the last few years, you can see what that looks like. You can see the growing swell. You can see at times last year they played like a team that you're like, okay, this team is the real deal, and maybe they can do something with a couple more good signings. Fans are excited. Oh man, doggies are out of the woodwork and making noise again. I'd forgotten they've been quiet for a while. I was enjoying the silence, but mate, you can hear them. But it's good for the game. And yeah, I just wonder whether, well, in saying all of this, Dallas could prove me completely wrong. They could bring Anthony Davis over. They've got a couple of other signings there, plus a first-round draft pick in a couple of years. And it could be exactly what they needed for long-term success. Who knows? Like maybe they know far more than anyone else. But it just doesn't look like that from the outside looking in. It looks like they've let go a franchise player from a business decision. I hope for their sake that it's worth it. As always, be interested to hear your thoughts. If you're listening to this one and you haven't subscribed yet, please help me out. Hit the subscribe. I can get in front of more people. I can bring you more high quality content. I've got some fantastic guests coming up, including a current NRL assistant coach, which is a great episode. But yeah, the more people I can get in front of, the higher quality of guests I can get on, and yeah, like I talked about, I want the performance to be as high as possible. So if you can help me do that, huge appreciation. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.